Hi, my name is Michael, and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Hello, Values Education class. Welcome to our new topic for this week, human acts. Here are the objectives: demonstrate an understanding of human acts and acts of man, identify the difference between human acts and acts of man, appreciate the importance of evaluation. Now guys, have you asked yourselves why do you have to do such actions? Did you act out based on your own free will? Is it voluntary? Are you really aware of what you're doing? So these are the questions that you may find the answers as we go through with our lesson for today. So please bear with me. Let me share with you some few lines of my original composition, and it says, humans, 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 be mindful of your actions. Your actions define of who you are. A human act or an act of man, your actions define of who you are. This song actually reminds us to be mindful of our actions because whatever we do, it reflects our own personality. Okay? Now, what is human acts? Human acts are actions performed by human beings. But the question is, how do we know that such action is a human act? No, we need to consider three characteristics. It says that an action must be performed consciously. So there is an awareness of doing such action. It must be performed freely. So an action must be done without any force or without being coerced by anyone. And it must be done willfully. So there is a willingness to do such action. So human acts are actions which are performed knowingly. There it was or it is performed freely, and it must be voluntary. Now any actions that lack of these attributes are not considered as human acts. How about acts of man? Acts of man are actions also performed by human beings and also by animals. So what's the difference? What's the difference between acts of man and human acts? Let's consider the specific definition of acts of man. An action is considered as an act of man when there is ignorance, when there is fear, when there is love or emotion, when there is physical and biological movements. Physical meaning when the movement from childhood to adulthood, that is considered as acts of man. And the internal movements within the human body is also considered as acts of man. Another is when such action is influenced with vision Another is that when an action is performed by a child below the reasoning age, and when it is performed by an insane person, and again if it when there is fear in that action, and when such action is under the influence of drugs or alcohol or. Now let's have an activity. It's called situational analysis. I'm going to present a situation, and you just have to identify whether that situation is a human act or an act of man. Are you ready? Situation 1. Juan, a young man who grew up in the province, went to the city for the first time. He crosses the street without a second thought and almost got hit by a car. Is this a human act or an act of man? Let's see. It is an act of man because there is ignorance. Since one grew up in the province. Situation 2. Bea is a college student. Her mother works as a vegetable vendor while her father is a waiter. Their earnings are barely enough to send their child to school. Before the final exam, Bea's parents failed to send her money for her tuition fee. One of Bea's friends, Michelle, offered her to work as a prostitute for her to earn. Michelle told her about the work. Without hesitation, Bea signed up for the job. Is this a human act or an act of man? It is a human act because there is knowledge, freedom, and voluntariness. Bea was at the right age with the right mind to decide. Situation 3. Mrs. Aquino is a very rich businesswoman. Her only son was kidnapped and kidnappers asked for 50 million pesos. Mrs. Aquino gave the money right away. It is an act of man. There is fear present. Mrs. Aquino was afraid of. So those are the different situations that will help you identify if an action is a human act or an act of man. This time, try to examine yourselves. How many times you fail to follow the right decisions? How many times you choose to be unreasonable just to satisfy your selfish needs? I hope you guys learned something today, and I hope that you are able to find the answers to those questions that we've gathered earlier. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next week for another exciting topic. And please don't forget to subscribe. Bye.